Hello, everybody, and welcome to another great episode of the Gridiron Glory. Tad and Will here with some more amazing content on NFL coverage of all 32 teams throughout the NFL. Again, all 32 teams throughout the entirety of the season. Um, so here we are with some Week 5 recap action. We're going to go ahead and week recap the Buccaneers and Falcons Thursday night football matchup between these two teams in Week 5. And boy, was it a really good Thursday night football matchup under the primetime lights in Atlanta, Georgia, at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. You had Kirk Cousins go out there and throw for over 500 yards, 4 touchdowns, and obviously Baker Mayfield with the 3 touchdowns. Both of the quarterbacks did not shy at all of going out there and giving it all for their teams, doing everything they needed to do to win this game for their teams. And up until like the very end, it seemed like the Buccaneers, even at one point, kind of had it in the bag. But then, the Falcons defense was able to force the 3 and out, get the ball back with about less than a minute to go. And then, obviously you drive down the field in a perfect amount of time. You get right within field goal range. You spike the ball right down. Kirk Cousins able to lead the team down there with no timeouts. You have to do the hurry up offense as fast as you can. Get the ball snapped and then get the ball spiked. You're able to do that with quite literally 1 second left on the clock. And then Younghoe Koo goes out there and ties it to send it into overtime for this Falcons team. And then they do eventually go down the field and score to win that football game. Both teams with a turnover each. And yeah, there was a lot of big plays. One thing I noticed obviously was I feel like this was, we're talking about Kirk Cousins in this game, but really the player that stood out to me the most on the entirety of the field in this football matchup, a guy that probably really had a breakout performance in his very young NFL career, Drake London.
Yeah, Drake London, his first few years in the league, he had quarterback play that made you think if he had better quarterback play, what could he do? And now we're seeing Drake London with a veteran quarterback in Kirk Cousins, a guy that can get him the ball downfield, a guy that can make the big throws. And now we're seeing Drake London blossom before our eyes into the receiver that we knew he could be. Out of USC, he's having a very quality season, and it's looking to just continue. So very big day for Drake London. 13 targets, caught 12 of them, 154 yards, a touchdown, several big plays, several key conversions. That play to get into field goal range where they eventually spiked the ball. That I believe that went to Drake London as well. So that was just an outstanding performance of execution by Kirk Cousins, Drake London, just everyone executing to the best of their abilities. So that's just great play by Atlanta. Tampa Bay, they came out, they put everything on the line too. These are two teams that we're going to expect to see compete for the NFC South for the majority of the year. The Saints could be a factor as well, but these are two teams that they play very good football. They play a good style of football. Both sides do. This game could have went either way, make no mistake. Tampa Bay came and they played a very competitive game, and they had the game under control for a large portion of the game, as you alluded to, due mostly to the efficiency of Baker Mayfield, solid running by Rachaad White, Bucky Irving, a solid 1-2 punch, a couple touchdowns for Mike Evans, the always reliable veteran. So, they have nothing to be ashamed of. That's a very solid look for Tampa Bay as well. But in the end, you get the overtime. Atlanta, they win the coin toss. They go right down the field, the touchdown to Kadero Hodge, the reserve receiver, playing after an injury to London. So, I mean, just the Falcons executed at the end of the game, and that's what it came down to.
They did they did execute at the end of the game. They made the plays they needed to make. They needed to go out there and they needed to get a win.
Mm-hmm.
At home against their divisional rivals. You find any way you can to do that, and they do just that. And I want to go ahead and get your take on the well, my personal take on Young Waku before I ask you about him is he's a guy that, not a kicker that you first think of when you think of elite kickers in the NFL, but time and time again, here he comes out in clutch situations.
Mm-hmm.
You need a field goal to tie the game. You need a field goal to give your team a fighting chance. And, young Wake, Woo, who time and time again has proven himself to be a very clutch kicker in the NFL. And, he is just really consistent, and more times than not, he's going to get the job done as an NFL kicker. And so, yeah, did you have any takes on Young Waku?
Yeah, I mean, he's reliable. He goes out there, he does his job. And it was nice to see that he was able to bounce back off of the missed kicks because he missed a pair of kicks today in that football game as well. But when it comes down to it, I mean, he makes the big ones. I mean, he made the one to get the game to overtime. He made the one the previous week to beat the Saints. So, I mean, he's a guy that they're going to trust. They've always trusted young Waku to go out there and do his job, and he's had a very good season, a very good career. So a very solid kicker that Atlanta has. And I will say one of the kicks that he missed was blocked. So I mean, of course, not entirely his fault when you get your kick blocked. But with that being said, I mean, you're always going to trust a guy like Young Waku. I mean, he's got very good distance, very good accuracy. So that's he got the job
And where would
done when it
you
mattered.
rank him amongst overall starting NFL kickers?
Probably top five.
Okay. A very solid take. Um, um, Obviously, both defenses, not flashy performances by either one of the defenses, though. I mean, some honorable mentions. Jesse Bates, obviously a very solid safety, 8 total tackles, 3 of them being solo. You also have guys like David Onyemata, who had 2 solo tackles, a sack, and a tackle for a loss, along with a hit on the quarterback. So, you know, definitely some guys that were making some plays on that Atlanta defense, though a lot to be desired in some other components of it. But nonetheless, they found the way to get the job done as a team. So a really good overall win in the NFC South battle on Thursday Night Football for the Atlanta Falcons. So yes, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did lose this football game, and that does not mean at all that they didn't necessarily have a good performance. Just you make a play or two that might have been able to go I mean, this was just kind of a game where it was like 2 NFL, this was high quality NFL football in this game.
Yes, absolutely. Very high quality football. A lot of elite level offense. Defenses trying to do what they could. Like you said, the offense was ahead of the defense in this game. Very few stops by the defense, but just it was a fun football game to watch. Just 2 very competitive teams playing at a fairly high level. So good
The
to see.
Buccaneers now 3-2. They go on the road next week to take on the New Orleans Saints at 2-3. The Falcons, I do believe the Falcons have a bye week, if I'm not mistaken. No, they go on the road and play at Carolina. So these 2 teams will continue divisional play going into week 6. So both the Buccaneers and Falcons, this is a chance for both of you guys to go to 4-2. You're going to meet again later in the season. So I'm excited to see how the NFC South
Yeah.
unfolds, especially between the Bucs and Falcons. And I mean, though, if the Saints can find a way to beat the Buccaneers at home next week, that changes the entirety of the dynamic in the NFC South. But if the Bucks win that game, I mean, then you got to figure Atlanta's would probably beat Carolina. So that Tampa Bay New Orleans game is actually going to be a very critical NFC South game. So there you have it. Yeah, be sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Thank you for following all season long on another episode of the Gridiron Glory, where we cover all 32 teams.